want Ukraine and NATO.
Right.
And Ukraine knows this.
Well,
That's the funny thing. They know that.
Here's the thing that I'm looking at, though. Poland, Romania, even the unification of Germany. All of those events took place in countries that historically, as you pointed out before, were not really considered part of Rus.
Right.
But they were made parts of the Warsaw Pact. They didn't ask to become members of the Warsaw Pact. They were compelled to it. And not by the fear of the Western European countries. Poland wasn't scared of West Germany or France or Belgium. Poland was forced into the Warsaw Pact by Soviet divisions. And so when the Soviet Union falls, it would almost, basically those nations that were formerly part of the Warsaw Pact basically would have had two options. Go neutral, like Finland did, or seek to join NATO. But at no point could anyone say that NATO forced them into our alliance. Well, that wasn't what happened.
Well,
but I can see why Russia would feel threatened by it.
Yeah. Well, what is it? The saying, guns and butter. We have the guns and butter strategies.
So we bribed them, maybe.
Yeah.
And you know what? I could say that. Yeah. They looked at the West just like East Germany did. They looked at West Germany and go, wow, those folks, west of this wall, they live pretty nice.
Right.
We live pretty shabby.
Right.
I'd like to be like that over there. Mm-hmm. Who wouldn't like to be like that over there,
Right.
Then, of course, in some cases, and I have read articles that say, now that Germany has been united, that, some of the East Germans look back kind of fondly on the days when everybody was the same.
Yeah, East Germany is a lot poorer than West Germany to this day.
Yeah. They say like, well, we thought that we would get to be like y'all. Well, it doesn't look much better.
A lot of that's happening in Russia too. There is a contingency, and I've been watching documentaries and reading about this for years. There's a growing contingency of people in Russia who long for the Soviet Union as well. And I think we see a lot of that even like in this country sometimes, when even though there was an era where obviously much of this country's history where civil rights weren't great, and even when in times when people in the South during segregation lived, their standards of living were not up to people in the North, they still longed for a time when they felt like they were part of something strong. Mm-hmm. And so you see these people reliving the Confederacy, or having these Confederate recreations over and over again. You go, why would you want to relive something where you got your behind whooped and eventually? Why would you want to relive that? And you lived much worse than the people who won for the next 100 years. There's the abject poverty in the South to this day that you will not find even in Chicago, Detroit, Gary, Flint, Michigan. There's places in Alabama where people don't have indoor plumbing.
Right.
Like we have indoor plumbing in the projects in Delaney here. They don't have indoor plumbing in places in Alabama. So why would you want to go back to that? And I think that there's just something in the human psyche that says, I want to be a part of something that even though my life may not be great in it, it made me feel like I was a part of something powerful. And this is I think it's a dangerous mindset to have. I've never been a fan of Confederate recreations, and I'm definitely not a fan of Vladimir Putin, trying to bring back the Russian Empire. And I think that sometimes when people reminisce on stuff and sort of they look back at the past with rose-colored glasses, and they think, oh, well, we were great and strong, but they're not even thinking about how people lived, how the majority of people lived during this time. And there's a reason that these things ended.
Well, there's actually there's a biblical story. You know how there are some black people who look at the story of the first 5 books of the Bible and see our story in the story of Israel.
Right.
Well, that during that part when Israel comes out of Egypt, And they're first coming out, and it's before they cross the Red Sea. And they hear that the Egyptian armies are coming after them. They go from celebrating, that they are free, they're out of bondage, they've plundered the Egyptians and got all this gold and stuff, and now it looks like the Egyptians have changed their mind and they're coming for them, and there's the Red Sea in front of them and the Egyptian army behind them, and they're going, oh, we should have stayed. Oh, for the leeks and the onions.
Yeah.
Oh, why did we listen to you, Moses? And, and that's not that's not the last time that they will do that. Every time things get a little rough, the story goes, they will look back longingly for the golden days of Egypt when they didn't have to worry about where their next meal was coming from because the Egyptians were going to supply them with leeks and onions. There might have been whips with it. Might have been you've got to make bricks without us supplying straw. It might have been that we can kill your kids at any time, but at least we had 3 square meals a day.
Right.
It's almost like, you think about it. You remember, you've seen the movie The Shawshank Redemption,
Oh,
right?
yeah, I love that movie.
Okay.
With Tim Robbins. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember the guy who gets out, a little short white guy? And he gets out, and all those years, and he thought, all I want to do is get out of this prison. Then he gets out, and then life on the outside is not as regulated,
Exactly.
not as structured, and he starts longing for the flesh pots of Shawshank.
Institutionalized. That's what they
Yes.
call it, being institutionalized.
Being institutionalized. I think there is an element of that for people. No one likes uncertainty, or most people don't like uncertainty.
They do not. And this is what I tell people on the left all the time. A lot of people, I've had lots of arguments with different people, people I consider cool, even on people I follow on Twitter, etc., people who follow me, about this very topic about safety versus security. And I always say, look, there are a lot of people who will go for the unjust but safe option before they go for the chaos that may have some, say, justification. Like, they'll say, like, oh, man, the media is talking about that guy who stole hamburger from the store. Look at the media. The media is talking about the story. Because even Al Sharpton and them on MSNBC covered it about this guy who had stole, like, 10 packages of hamburger walked out of the store. And I think the news cameras were there, and they saw him. They saw him just walking out of the store, and this was in New York City. And he just walked out the store. And so I remember looking at that and going, oh, man, this is definitely going to backfire on us. And a lot of the left commentators were saying, yeah, well, Wall Street steals more than that every second, and corporations steal that from its workers through wage theft. And I go, look, dude, you're overthinking this, okay? Your grandmother who is watching this at home does not want to go to her local grocery store and see that all the hamburger is gone because this guy stole all the hamburger. Like, she does not care about how much Wall Street or corporations steal or how much. She does not care about that at that moment. She does not want to go to a Walgreens and be shopping and hear sirens and blaring because this guy is just walking out with all the cold medicine and all the cigarettes in the store. Like, your grandmother, she will say, I want somebody to make that stop. Okay? Even before, the people who steal on a high scale white collar crime, they may steal a lot more on the in terms of actual substance. But your grandmother, your uncles, your aunties don't want that uncertainty. They don't want the uncertainty of having to go to a store and having the shelves be bare because somebody just stole everything in there. Like Siri. Oh my God, it's 6:35. Jesus Christ, Rev, we talked all this time. Okay, folks. Man, this was good discussion. We will be back after this on WLTH 1370 AM. Stay with us. I want to get into that story in Chicago because this is sort of about this.
I know.
We'll be right back after this.
Listening to Cannon Rev on WLTH
Weekdays, 1370 AM. Give us a call, 219-885-1371.